Hello and welcome to the Capital Games Podcast. I am the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero. How's it going, my man?
All right. Kind of got sucker punched in the face by Monster Hunter Rise.
Yeah. Oh God. I don't think we've ever talked about this on the podcast, but since World, I love Monster Hunter. Like, the World introduced me to it, really, and I've always was curious about it. But I finally got into it with World, and I love that game. And I got Rise 2 and loved it. But yes, Sunbreak came out this past week, and you bought it, but you had a little problem, didn't you?
Yeah, so during the giant Monster Hunter streaming special that Capcom had right up before the release, I could have swore that Capcom had said, oh yeah, all you just need to do to get to the Sunbreak content is just beat the game. And I was like, okay, great. Well, I just beat Magnum Malo just a while ago, back in early June of this year, so great. And then, I get my copy with the Malzeno amiibo and everything. Drop in my download code that came in the steel case box and everything. Get into the game. I start looking for whatever quest it is for me to go to the European area to fight Malzeno and whatever else is out there. And I'm just like, okay, well, where the hell's the quest that I take to go? I can't find it frickin' anywhere. And then, of course, I look a little harder, and there are people saying, oh, yeah, you need to be Hunter rank 7. So, of course, my first reaction is, shit, what rank am I? And, yeah, only to find out that I got a massive sucker punch to the face of, hey, yeah, you're actually Hunter rank 3. So I'm like, crap, I got some grind to do.
Damn. Now, the improvements, I think the switch skill improvements and stuff like that, is that available to you, or is that gated to 7 as well?
I think that's also gated to rank 7 as well, too, unfortunately.
All right. Well, we talked about this off air. I definitely wanted to get... I was debating on getting it, because I know that in order to get to that, I have to grind as well. So I might get it. But also deep down, I'm like, I'm satisfied with Monster Hunter Rise, so I'm kind of on the fence. But, maybe you can convince me to get it with you and we'll play together. So, that sucks. But, yeah, Monster Hunter Rise, if you haven't played it, is a great game. So, I would definitely recommend playing that. The game's awesome, actually. I really like it.
Yeah, it's so good. I'm one of the weird ones. I didn't quite like Monster Hunter World, even though I had a whole bunch of friends going, oh, dude, get on PlayStation. We'll play on PlayStation. And then, of course, once they got, like, super far from me, they're like, oh, you're fucking in balls as hell in the lobby levels? Screw you. I ain't helping you. And I'm just like,
yeah,
well, what a waste of $60. And then I ended up deciding to give Monster Hunter another chance with Rise, and it's been just the best thing I've ever done as far as the Monster Hunter stuff, because just even solo, I have a lot of fun, and the co-op lobbies have generally been pretty good. Lots of folks who end up communicating effectively, generally being pretty chill, pretty cool. So, which was a completely different experience than I had with grouping with randoms on Monster Hunter World, because it was nothing but just toxic shit of, oh my god, do you not know how to play the game? And I'm just like, dude, I'm a lobby. What the hell do you expect?
Yeah. I mean, I was weird with World, where I just played it single player and that's it. But I was surprised with Monster Hunter Rise by how really good the multiplayer is. It's not like what you would think with the Switch and how its multiplayer servers are, that it would probably be shit, because even their mainline games have terrible online multiplayer. But this is actually really good. I was really surprised by it. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend playing that if you haven't gotten it yet. But anyway, we can't really talk about anything else much with Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak because one of us doesn't have it and the other one isn't there yet to play the content. So, okay, that's fine. So, why don't we move on, and we're going to have an all-story podcast this week. And we will start with one of our favorite topics, Zero, and that is loot boxes. Loot boxes. I mean, you can't talk about the business and culture around video games without talking about wonderful, beautiful loot boxes. And basically, the main talking about with loot boxes now is that some countries are now starting to take a crack at them and try and regulate them, or in some cases, flat out ban them. Spain became the newest country to do so. Basically, it's the same as Belgium and Germany. I think was it Belgium and Germany or Belgium and the Netherlands? Wait, Belgium.
Belgium and the Netherlands.
Okay.
They have a hard ban on loot boxes because they their gaming commissions do consider them as gambling.
Yes.
And that's why they're banned from video games. So copies of games like FIFA are pretty much illegal to sell in both Belgium and the Netherlands. And it's kind of funny with regards to those two countries because I forget what year it was, but it was when the laws had just kicked off and the newest iteration of I think it was one of the NBA 2K games came out.
Yeah.
And on social media, it just sort of went wild on fire and everything, with just players in Belgium and the Netherlands going, "Yo, what the shit? I can't play the My Career mode because loot boxes. Yo, what the shit?" And I think 2K put out like this dumb fluff sort of like mention of, hey, if you all don't like it, you should raise social awareness that this is an injustice to your game or whatever. And it was so bad because it was just like a lot of other people were just like, really? Loot boxes being banned is an injustice against the world. Shut the fuck up, 2K. And I was just like, holy shit.
Loot boxes for social justice.
Yeah, it was like the wildest thing. I was just like, wow, someone at 2K clearly didn't think this through because now they're just getting clowned on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I'll quote the article from Reuters about this specific topic. Spain is set to become the first European country to have a law regulating the use of so-called loot boxes, I like how they use so-called, in video games, aiming to avoid, end quote, thoughtless, compulsive, or even pathological consumer behavior, the government said on Wednesday of last week. When we talked about this before we recorded, I had an issue with basically them making it a morality issue, making it basically a, I think the term pathological was where I was like, that kind of perked my ears up and went, that this doesn't sound great. But I think you mentioned also in it that it was more the compulsory thing, where it was designed to get people to constantly engage and put money into said item until they are, quote unquote, satisfied with what they got. So, go ahead.
Yeah, because later in the article, they have a mention about the reason that they use the pathological term.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the statements that was mentioned was 3 out of 10 Spanish students spent money in 2021 to improve their ranking, characters, accessories, or image in video games after the initial purchase of loot boxes.
Yeah. Okay, so, well, that is true. Okay, and that is true not only for young people but old. Anyone who's a gamer who is actually engaged with, again, there's some who haven't; they just refuse. But there are some that I think all that have engaged in this have been part of that kind of cycle where they would spend more money to get better gear, better players, better whatever. Like I've done it, and I'll admit to that. But
Yeah, hell, I'll fess up too. Just for anyone who thinks that just I've got no perspective on it. When Genshin Impact came out, for me it was fucking waifu city. I was just like, oh man, love this. And I shit you not, I bought the $100 Genesis Gems pack so I could just pull like a bunch of characters and everything. And yeah, just I'm guilty of it too. But as the years have gone by, I'm definitely hardening myself up more and more against loot boxes and everything. Because, just it gets to be a deep rabbit hole because you just want to chase that high of just pulling that one rare chase character, rare item, a super sick looking skin. Just there's always something that just tickles that primal need of I want the shiny. And yeah, just I can see why a lot more countries are starting to get on board with the whole, yeah, we should probably ban these loot boxes because they're pretty freaking terrible.
Yeah. Now I got a question for you. This is going to become the third, it's the third country in Europe to have some kind of regulation on these loot boxes. My question is to you: do you think this is coming to the U.S.?
I would say possibly, but that's only with perspective to Diablo Immortals and how bad the monetization has been. Especially since you have like current estimates of stuff like I think almost $500,000 to get completely geared out and everything that you would have to just dump into Diablo Immortals. And then on top of that, you had Quinn69 out in New Zealand who spent the equivalent of $16,000 just to see how long it would take for him to bump into a five-star, fully five-starred out gem. And even $16,000, that's completely bonkers.
Yeah.
And I know the ESA has always been, we're self-regulating. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool. We'll make sure things don't ever get out of hand. We promise, because there's no need for the government to step in. And then you have stuff like just the sheer greed of Diablo Immortal, just kind of right out on display, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I have a feeling that you might have some government officials in the U.S. probably giving that the side eye, going, yeah, if it takes $16,000 to get like a single good gem in the game, something doesn't smell right, and this smells rife for abuse.
So here's the thing, okay? Well, first off, the ESA. The ESA is a lobbying group for the gaming industry, and to think that they're going to self-regulate their industry when the industry itself pays for their dues in order for them to lobby, I think is kind of... That's the same thing as like a corporation investigating itself and clearing itself of wrongdoing. Like, that's just ridiculous. You couldn't... And anyone who was like, oh, the ESA will do it, probably didn't think that straight and was like, oh, that's not how it's going to work. The ESRB also relies on... I think the ESRB is a different organization, right? But they also...
the ESRB is a foundation founded by the ESA.
Okay, so they're attached to the ESA. Okay, so yeah, these guys are not going to... They're not going to self-regulate. They're going to do enough to make sure... They're really the PR for the entire industry. So when people are like, why won't the ESA do something? They are doing something. They're softening the blow just enough so it won't get government regulators involved. So, but here's the thing also. people who are asking to get in the United States for these loot boxes to get banned, you're in for a rude awakening, and it's because that basically, and I'm not a legal expert, but I have read articles on this. Basically, loot boxes are First Amendment protected. And the reason why some legal people who are illegal or in the legal profession think this is because there was a lawsuit in the 70s about baseball cards. And basically someone sued a baseball company. I think it was Bowman at the time. Baseball cards are essentially First Amendment protected. Loot boxes, ergo, is also First Amendment protected. So asking for it to be banned is just not going to work. Even if they put a law out saying it's banned, the ESA will go to a higher court, or will go even to the Supreme Court and say, this is unconstitutional, you can't do this, here's our precedent. And they'll probably win. So asking for the ban will not work. What will work is getting it regulated.
Yep.
So,
and I think it's really just trying to regulate loot boxes and things like that to gambling is a much more, I guess, realistic way that a ban could happen, or maybe just gating it off to just 18 plus players in general, mostly because a lot of the loot boxes, at least in the US, they technically don't have to disclose the odds, and there's all sorts of very shaky legal loopholes that you can use. I think we covered this when we did our Diablo Immortal special, but Blizzard came up with a clever way to basically evade the loot box regulation in Diablo Immortal by basically saying the legendary crests are technically not loot boxes, that they are tokens to use in the rifts, and if you beat the rift, then yeah, you get your items, but if you don't beat the rift, then you get your legendary crest back. So Blizzard has a very clever and snaky way of basically saying, hey, look guys, it's technically not gambling, you're just buying tokens to a skill game, guys.
It didn't work though, but it was a good try, I would say. But yeah, those who would look at that and say, well, that's technically not a loot box because you need skill in order to actually obtain the item, is basically, the workaround on that. But let's talk about regulation, really, because the best thing you can do, and I think we talked about this on maybe even Diablo or maybe another time. Basically, the idea I have is basically this: if you basically, there has been precedent in the ESRB that if a game has gambling, like straight up gambling, it's a mature rated game. Okay, I think it was, well, the ESRB wasn't around when Vegas Stakes came out on the Super NES, but I remember distinctly that I couldn't buy that game without my mom's permission because it had gambling in it. I remember this. So anyway, but basically, if it has gambling in it, it's a mature rated game because in order to gamble, you need to be you have to be 18 or over to do it. So that basically means in order to engage with gambling, you have to be over the age of 18, which means it has to be an adult-rated game. So it's adults only. By doing that, and by saying, well, if you have to be 18, you can only use adults-only games to use those gambling. By that point, all the console manufacturers don't want adults-only games on their console. So they either have to make two choices. They either have to say, okay, we have to allow a lot adults-only games on here, or they basically say, well, then we can't have these loot boxes in here because that's considered gambling. If that's adults only, then that's over. We're not doing it. So that's really the only way, is to basically regulate it to the point where it's completely untenable for the business to work. Now, would that also cause legal issues? Probably. But it's actually a little more legally sound to do that than to just try and ban the item itself. because you can make an argument that loot boxes is an artistic expression, and you can't really regulate artistic expression. So, yeah, that's my opinion. That's my opinion on it, at least.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if this report gets stacked onto the one that I believe either Finland or Norway put out a couple weeks ago, basically equating loot boxes to gambling, because I know that particular report got 18 other countries in the EU to say, hey, yeah, we think it's time to start regulating loot boxes because, yeah, this report makes some very substantial claims in their research. So we think it's probably a good idea to start considering the ban of loot boxes.
And we're looking at also companies that or games that had loot boxes are now considering taking them out. I'll look at Overwatch 2, for example. They're completely getting rid of loot boxes in that game in exchange for battle passes. So you might see more games actually saying, well, we don't want to deal with that then, so we'll just put battle passes in the game instead. Or we'll just straight up tell you, if you want to buy this thing, it's $20 and go from there. So that might be what eventually happens. But, yeah, Spain looking to regulate loot boxes is interesting. I don't know how big their economy is. Let me look. It's GDP of $1.2 billion. That's not bad. $1.2 billion is their GDP. So that's a pretty sizable amount that's a pretty sizable economy. It's the fourth biggest economy in the EU. So with, yeah, and 14th in the world. That's big. That's a big country that's looking at basically taking a sizable revenue from the gaming industry and saying, nah, we're not allowing that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Do you have anything to add on that?
No. I think for me, it'll just be real interesting to see how the how the game industry will proceed and if countries around the world will just start taking a harder stance on loot boxes, with possibly going further with banning them or just regulating them away as gambling.
Okay. All right, so let's move on. Zero, I'm going to have you take the reins on this because I'm not exactly... I mean, I know a few things, but I'm not as in-depth about this as you are. So there was some news to talk about the Intellivision Amico. So before we get into the news, why don't you go ahead and talk about what exactly is the Intellivision Amico?
So the Amico was a console that Intellivision was trying to prop up. I believe it was either on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I forget where. It's been so long, but essentially, they were trying to set up the Amico as being kind of like the second coming of the original Wii. So a family console with games that are easily accessible for gamers young and old.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, just a lot of folks who grew up with gaming in the 70s and early 80s were just like, oh, that's awesome. Love my Intellivision from way back when or whatever. So a lot of excitement for it and everything. Essentially, it's a console with two, I guess you could call them smartphone-looking controllers, because they have a touchscreen and then they've got like a jog wheel with a D-pad sort of a thing going on.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, very weird, very strange. And then it's got like two shoulder buttons on the right side of the little touchscreen controller. So
it looks like a Zune almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's real strange looking and everything. And just for a while there was the excitement, but there was really no clear plan on what the release schedule was like or anything like that. So things get interesting from there, because sometime last year they had talked about their plan on how games will be sold and developed for the console for any third parties who are interested in producing anything for the Amico. And there were some really weird arbitrary restrictions, and I think the one that really sort of got everyone questioning things was the restriction that if you sell a game on the Amico's digital store, like a digital download, the maximum price that it can have is a whopping $10.
I thought it was 20.
No, that's the retail copies, like the actual printed hard copy cartridges that you could buy potentially at any retail store. Then those could have a maximum price cap of $20.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So they announced that, and then on top of that, this was around October last year. They also made a whole big, I guess you could call it like, push that they were selling boxed Amico games, and if you bought these, they would have limited collector's edition on the covers. And it was kind of goofy because, of course, a lot of people were just like, okay, so you're selling us the games, but we don't have a timeline for when we can get the machine to play these games.
That was
So
weird.
it was absolutely strange. And what made it stranger still was just the fact that the pricing was just absolutely nuts, because you could either buy like the games were split into 2 packs of 4. So if you wanted to buy pack A or pack B, they were $79.99 for 1 pack of 4 games. Or if you wanted the entire bundle, it was $150. And the first 50,000 copies that were sold would have a special limited collector's edition tag right on the box. So just absolutely strange stuff. And then, long story short, Tommy Talrico had been saying some pretty controversial stuff. The new CEO sort of took over for Tommy Talrico, and ever since some of the weird PR madness, things got real quiet for the Amico. And then, after all the silence, there were still questions of, hey, so when are we going to be able to get our hands on the Amico hardware? You have games for us, clearly, and you've mentioned that there's going to be a download store to download games, so we assume you probably have developers on board to produce games, but we still don't know when the hardware's coming out. And I want to say it was sometime earlier this year, they made a sudden decision to basically say, hey, so we need to sort of double back on this, so we're going to turn off pre-orders for the Amico, and we'll just have to come back to another time when we have something a little bit more concrete and ready. So a lot of people are starting to get worried, and we're just like, okay, well, that's real weird. I hope they're gonna allow us refunds for any of us who decide to just plunk down the cash real early, because just here we are almost 2 years in and we've got nothing. Then we get to what happened sometime last week, which was that all of a sudden the trademark for the Intellivision Amico has been flagged at the U.S. Patent Trade Office as dead. So, and that's real interesting because, of course, if you want to sell something that's got a brand on it, naturally you want to try to make sure that the trademark status is locked in, so you don't have anyone sort of running away with your trademark.
Right.
And for all of a sudden the trademark to be flagged as as dead as of June 20th of this year. It's really odd, especially when for the longest while they were real confident on the Amico. They were just like, oh yeah, we're going to be able to uh, sell you an experience like no other, and and it's also not looking great too, because of course they had touted that the Amico would have exclusive games, and one of the things that the new CEO Phil Adam had announced was just to make sure that the development for the Amico stays alive. They were cutting all sorts of operations costs. Um, they were trying to make sure that with all the cost cutting that they were doing, that the Amico would still come out as a quality machine. And it's kind of funny about the whole exclusivity bit for the Amico's games, because one of the things that Phil Adam also announced was that Intellivision would be licensing out its legacy IPs to developers who want to release games on other platforms. And the idea behind that was to kind of keep the cash flowing. So just more and more, it just seems like that the Amico is going to be relegated to vaporware status. Just all these things don't really paint a great picture, especially if they're all of a sudden just backing down on putting a solid release date target on this thing. So when the console had its quote-unquote release from the investment campaign, they were trying to set a target for $5 million. They only raised $58,000.
Oh, wow. That's not enough.
Yeah, so it just, all these things kind of combined together, it just doesn't look good. And
Yeah.
the more and more just I look at this news brief that was covered by Video Game Chronicles, or the Video Games Chronicle, just it doesn't paint a good picture of the Amico. And I think that we'll probably find out in the next couple months if this thing is just going to be vaporware and it's just going to evaporate.
Yeah. I mean, there were signs that something was a little off with this console. I think you pretty much mentioned everything. I would push back a little on the abandonment on the trademark. It could very well be that, and this is the only defense I have, really. It could very well be that they probably lapsed the Amico and decide to just name it the Intellivision and just go with that. But but with the rest of it, yeah, this is a really weird console that I just didn't get the appeal of. Especially when you talk about having, isn't this the console also that you must have there isn't like downloadable content, that you must have a hard copy and it must be finished when you put it out? Like, is that the same thing is this the same console, or am I thinking of something else?
No, I think in one of the third-party developer design docs that had leaked out, I believe one of the requirements was if you make a game, be it a downloadable title or a copy that is purchasable at retail, it must be 100% feature complete. So no DLC, no loot boxes, just straight out. You got to have a 100% complete game.
Right.
Though I think in one of those design docs, they did add like a clause for the potential of being able to do online updates. So let's say you've got like a bug that causes the system to just go to a hard crash, then yeah, you can still patch the games. But I think they were just like, no, we want to make sure that any games you sell on this system are 100% feature complete. So no weird shenanigans or whatever. So
basically, at the company's discretion, they will allow it. Is basically what it sounds like. Okay. Look. When I heard about this, like, this sounds like a bullet point list of what old gamers have been saying they hate about video games nowadays, and for good reason. We're both old video gamers, pretty much at this point. We won't give out our age, but yeah, I think that's fair, right, Zero?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, um, for anyone out there who wants perspective, my first console was the original NES.
Same. Same. And yeah, and as we get older, yeah, we get kind of annoyed by the constant DLC and the patches and the games not being complete when they're officially released. We hate that too. But what I didn't get about this console really is that that's nice that you want to do that, but gamers are in a way tech enthusiasts. As much as they do hate that stuff, they do want systems that up tech, that have better graphics, that do different technological advancements in AI or in how they process features in a console. They want that stuff. So to then say, oh yeah, we're stripping all of that out to have a console just like the Intellivision or Amica, but for today, was kind of weird, in my opinion. And I'm surprised that a bunch of people bought into it. What else really? I mean, and then with the max that you can spend, you can actually do for a game is $20. What's going to stop these developers from then saying, okay, if the most I can get is $20, then I'll just get it. I'll just put it out in here and port it to PC, Switch, Xbox, and PS4 to get the maximum amount of money I can get. So then there are no really exclusive games for the Intellivision Amico. So I look at this business document, I'm like, this is not a sound business investment. Like, this is actually kind of bad. So I think from that point, when you told me all this and I read up on it, I was like, this just seemed like a bad idea all around. So it kind of made me start thinking that maybe this was. I joke that this is maybe a money laundering scheme of sorts, but I don't think that's really what's happening. But yeah, this is not a really sound business plan. I don't think they made they didn't really think about this right as much as they should have. Because the best thing to do when you have a business is to not only have the idea, but then work the idea out to think, okay, I have this. How does it compare to this? How does it compare to this? What will happen if this happens? You have to think 5 steps ahead. And it just doesn't seem like they thought anywhere past, I'm an old gamer, I hate the way games are these days, dagnabbit, and I'm going to make it the way they used to be. Without thinking, yeah, but there's a reason why they're like this, so...
Yeah, and part of me almost wonders if this was kind of like a really, really short-sighted idea.
Yes.
They saw where just Atari made their little VCS console, and they were just like, "Hey, we want to do something like that and get a piece of that." And in their chase to try to do something like the VCS, they wanted to try to go the high technology route with that weird hybrid touch controller that looks like a smartphone.
Yeah.
So, at least that's my take on it. It just seems like just sort of a haphazard slapshod sort of idea on, hey, we want high technology, but also on top of being high technology, we want something that's truly unique and interesting. But just how do we get to that point?
Yeah, and you can't have high technology, but then take away what technology has brought in the past 10 years. You kind of can't do that's. It's kind of hypocritical. Maybe not hypocritical is the word. What's the word for this? I'll spend all day figuring it out. But it's just, to me, it just felt like you said it best. They didn't think about it the whole way through. It was just kind of like an idea, farted it out. So this is great. Let's just do it this way. And they didn't think that past that. And if this was a legit business that they were doing, and were legitimately trying to do this console, I think they just hamstrung themselves right off the bat. So, as for it to being vaporware, yeah, I think you're right. I think that this essentially is going to be like a lot of Kickstarters and Indiegogos. This will probably end up just disappearing in like a year or so. And there are going to be people who are going to still be backing the campaign going, hey, what happened to this? Not realizing that the company's gone. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, there is good news. Apparently, they are offering refunds, which
oh, are they?
is
Okay.
kind of surprising to see because I figured they would have just taken the cash and run.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for goodwill's sake, they probably should do that, especially if they're going back to the drawing board and saying we may have to, like, even if they just do an Intellivision mini console. I mean, that might be their best. That might be the best idea that they have right now.
Yeah,
So,
just something like a little mini retro throwback console, and it'd probably do fine.
yeah.
It'd probably do just perfectly fine, especially for anyone who grew up in the late '70s, early '80s with Intellivision. They'd probably end up quickly buying that up, going, "Hell yeah, way to remember my gaming origins! Hell yeah!"
Yeah. And those people, old as balls. Holy shit, dude. 70s? Man, you gotta be real old to like an Intellivision. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It's creepy. The wrinkles and shit. God. Anyway, we will move. Well, you have more to add to that, or?
No, I think pretty much what's done is done with that, and just everything that I've seen from this whole Intellivision Amico saga, just it looks like it's just a massive clusterfuck. And I mean, I'm definitely glad that they're refunding people.
Yes, that's
who
good.
Decide to request for the refund, because I'm just so used to just seeing Kickstarters go wrong. Company ends up basically just going, oh well, thanks for the cash. So yeah, we'll see you later. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
essentially.
we'll be back with something else. And then of course they end up just completely vanishing in the mind share completely.
Yeah. Okay. We will move on. Zero, you're one of these sick people who like Sega. And, you know, that's not fair. That's not fair, actually. You're one of the sick people who like Sonic. And, you know, I love you in a heterosexual way. I do. But there's clearly something wrong with you if you like Sonic. But we're not talking specifically about Sonic, really. We're going to talk about Sega, the company. Sega actually has done some pretty good things business-wise in the past few years. They actually made a good Sonic game for once, I think about 5 years ago. Sonic became a film franchise, surprisingly, and that was very successful. And Atlas puts out a bunch of great games. Their subsidiaries do some good games. Like, they're in solid ground. And with that, they're realizing that another one of the properties that they have has some massive potential to make more money as a brand like Sonic. And you'd think it would be Alex Kidd, but it's not. It's not, Zero. It's not. Stop asking about Alex Kidd. God damn it. Oh, so annoying with your Alex Kidd. Anyway, so, surprisingly, and I thought this was a surprise, they're shopping around the Persona series to be optioned as a TV series or a movie franchise. Zero, how did you feel about hearing that Sega is looking to take Atlas's Persona and try and make it into an entertainment franchise?
My first concern really, and this is probably gonna spell out the minor anime nerd in me, but the first thought that I went to was, sweet God, I swear, if they're gonna produce a Persona movie or TV show, they better not do what they did with the American version of Death Note. That was awful.
God! Ah! I mean, I'm not a sick, degenerate anime nerd like you are, but I watched Death Note, And I liked it a lot, actually. I thought it was really good. But yeah, when I saw that movie, it was awful. Oh my god! I mean, they casted Ryuk pretty well, Willem Dafoe, but
Yeah.
everything else was just god awful about that. Ugh. God, but yeah, I share your concerns actually, because I can definitely see Sega going to Hollywood saying, "We want to make a Persona game, a Persona movie based on our games." Taking one look at it and go, "Okay, so American high school, they get sucked into a TV, so it's like Jumanji, right?" And and then you just have these poor Japanese executives going, "Oh fuck, what did we do?"
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, we have to have The Rock in it. Oh God, no.
And he has to shill for Zoa energy
Oh
drink.
good God. Tasty. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ. Yeah, this has the potential to be an absolute disaster, but they did make animes of Persona, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, how did they turn out?
The animes are literally just a synopsis of the good ending, so just you doing all the social links perfectly and
Yeah.
all that fun jazz. So essentially summing up an 80-hour playthrough in the span of 24 to 26 episodes.
Yeah. I know some of you are probably listening to this and going, well, why can't they just take Persona 3, 4, or 5 and put it on Netflix as a live-action series? The problem is that if you're gonna make it available to American audiences, you then have to explain the cultural differences between the Japanese and Americans. And as much as I love being American, we're not really that accepting of different cultures. I mean, I'm not saying anything too controversial. I mean, whenever I tell someone one of my favorite movies is a foreign language film, they balk and go, "Ugh, subtitles?" Like, yeah, dipshit. It's like, but Americans sadly are like that. You would have to basically turn Persona into an American series, and that means changing everything that, like, for example, I think in Japanese high school, like when high school in Japanese, it's almost a requirement to be in a club, right? Like you'd have to be in an extracurricular activity. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be in an extracurricular.
Right. So you can't. So automatically, that's going to be an issue with the Americanized version of Persona. So you can't essentially have. Maybe you could. Maybe you could have, let's say, the main protagonist with the class president and the burnout and the jock, and they all go into the Tartarus and defeat monsters. I guess you could do that, but then you would really have to be creative with, let's say, how they would have to get that done. So I'm thinking about it right now, and it's certainly possible, but I think the charms of Persona, like, I haven't played 5 yet, but the charms of Persona 3 and 4 is that it's steeped in Japanese culture, and it represents that in an authentic way, and makes it interesting for an American audience for them to enjoy. So, yeah, it would be really difficult to really have a series where it's based in Japan and not have an American connect with it with no American actors. Like, that would be my issue. That would be the issue I would find. That wouldn't be my issue. But that would be the issue that American audiences would have that would prevent people from watching it. So am I surprised that they're I am kind of surprised that they're using Persona as the next one that they want to make a series or a movie out of. And initially I was like, that's cool. But now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, that could turn out pretty bad, actually. So.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, best of luck to Sega if they decide to go through with this, or or if they decide to try to sort of set up some hard rules about it. But yeah, just for anyone who thinks I'm just clowning on this because as just I'm too much of an anime nerd or anything. I will say this: I was not a fan of the live action Bleach TV series that was a Netflix exclusive, and that was a Japanese cast live action show. And for me, just Bleach is just so out there and so silly and so nonsensical. Just for me, it was just kind of one of those things. I was just like, I don't really see how you could turn this into a live action, because you're talking about death gods with anime powers and stuff like that. It just doesn't seem like something that would translate well into like a live action medium.
Yeah, and I'll further add that I'm a big Cowboy Bebop fan, and they did a live action Cowboy Bebop, and that sucked. I know there are some people who are fans of it. I get it, but you have to admit, like what they did to Faye was pretty bad. Like, did you see the live action version of Cowboy Bebop?
No, mostly because I didn't really follow Cowboy Bebop as an anime when it originally had aired and everything. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not really going to have any perspective on this. So
yeah.
Just I'd rather hear it from somebody who has watched the original anime and then seen the TV show.
I saw the movie first when it came to theater. Well, it wasn't in theaters, but I saw it when it first came out on DVD, and I really liked it. So then I was like, I gotta watch the series, and I really liked the series. When they did the live action version, they changed Faye from admittedly sexualized character, but that was more demure and more contemplative, to a the sexualized part isn't the problem. The problem is they turned her into a loud, obnoxious, quip-sounding character that just was just the complete opposite of what Faye was in the series. So I looked at that, I was like, that is shitty. Like, that's terrible. So I watched a couple of episodes and bounced. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. So, yeah, it was bad. So bad, they only did one season, and they said, fuck this. So, but that's Netflix, really. But yeah, look forward to more announcements that Persona might be a TV series or movie.
Yeah,
I mean,
it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. But like I said, I mean, who knows? Sega may end up just going, hey, well, just maybe we hire somebody who kind of does an American riff on it that is more, I guess, a remix on Persona in general, and it's its own universe. So who knows?
I'm thinking about it, and if they just put a dump truck of money to Baz Luhrmann's house and say, direct our Persona movie, I would kind of be interested in that. Oh, you don't know who Baz Luhrmann is?
Not offhand.
Okay, Baz Luhrmann did Moulin Rouge, and he also did the Elvis movie that's coming. You haven't seen? Okay.
No, I have not.
Okay. I'll show you later. But basically, his movies are very musically inclined, so a lot of really good music choices, and his visual style is really colorful, and I mean really colorful. So he would actually be perfect for a Persona movie. Ooh, I'm actually getting kind of excited.
Yeah.
Still kind of a bad idea, but yeah, yeah. So let's. Do we have more to add to this, or?
No, I think really for me it's just more. I'm just going to be waiting with bated breath to see what the full announcement is. If it's going to be hey, we're just going to lazily adapt Japanese culture and just shoehorn it into America, and the setting is going to be Japantown, USA.
Pretty much. That'll be great. I will watch that. No, no. If they ruin Chie, I'll be very upset. Well, they will ruin Chie. So, God damn it. All right. You know what? Let's move on to our final story here, Zero. And the final story, it's kind of a PSA, really. And it's the PSA is, don't be a dick. But we'll get into why. Two stories happened this past week on Twitter, as they usually do. And the first story came dealing with the return of Monkey Island. Ron Gilbert, I guess, does a blog involving the making of Return to Monkey Island. And apparently, I didn't read up on it too much, but either he got harassed by fans about the art style, or he just got questioned a lot about why they don't change the art style. So that led to him pretty much saying he's not updating the blog anymore because he just doesn't want to deal with people that are that negative. So, yeah, that sucks. And the other is basically involving God of War. Apparently what was going to happen was rumored throughout the week last week was that Sony was going to have drop a trailer that announces the release date to God of War. That didn't happen, and when that didn't happen, people started attacking the developers. So much so, in fact, that one person decided, you know, it's a great idea to incentivize someone to give me the release date to God of War. Let me show them my penis. And this person, this brainlet, decided, let me get this female developer and show her my penis. And guess what? It didn't work. I would like to say nice try as a joke, but really, that was pretty fucked. So, even if, like Zero, even if you wanted to see a penis, that's not really the best reason to see a penis. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think she even went as far as saying that she was just like, I'm just sick of all the dick pics that I'm getting.
Oh my gosh, you got more of them? Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
oh God.
It was just a flood. Just a flood of dick pics that just hit this poor female developer, and she was just kind of like, I am just so sick of it. And then that's what got I believe it's Corey Balrog of Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
That basically he was just like, yeah, can we not send dick pic pictures, please? And can we, just try to remember that developers are human beings too.
Yeah, that's awful, man. Like, I think we can both agree that the people you shouldn't really be really going after anybody in this circumstance. Let me just point that out clearly. But if there's anyone to be pissed about when it comes to this, it's not the developers. I mean, they don't really... I think it's been clear now that the developers don't decide when games come out. It's the people upstairs in the executive suite who pretty much say, this is when the game comes out, whether it's finished or not, it's coming out, so get it done. So, yeah, if you really want to be pissed at somebody, again, but don't do it. Be pissed at the people up top. Don't be pissed at the people who are making the game. That's pretty screwed up, I would say. And I know why people do it, aside from them being unstable and assholes. It's because they're the closest they can get to someone with responsibility in getting the game released. It's the closest people are the developers. You want to add to that?
Really just for any of those who get a little bit enthusiastic about being able to follow a developer or anything close to that on social media, please remember to check yourself and touch grass, please, because it does you no good to harass a developer saying, when's the new game coming? When's the new game coming? Because they literally don't have control of it. Yeah. I mean, and you never know. We could go through another pandemic and studios end up having to shut down to a crawl. We could have another chip shortage that ends up reducing the number of workstation computers that can be made for game studios that are trying to hire more people to get a game done faster. There's absolutely no telling.
That's a good point, actually. I didn't think about that.
So yeah, just for anyone who does follow a game developer, please just remember that game developers are human beings too, and there's absolutely no reason to get insanely fanatical just because of the fact that your game is going to be delayed. Because one of the key events that I will always point to of just social media and parasocial relationships gone wrong is No Man's Sky.
Oh god.
And when the release date was delayed, and that was from Jason Schreier reporting saying, "Hey, I've got sources inside that say No Man's Sky is probably going to be delayed." And
Did he get death threats?
Technical reason. Death threats, bomb threats,
God.
just everything, because he dared to say that the game was going to be delayed, and just constantly being denounced on social media, going liar, just as absolute garbage mouth, saying that this game that is my life and identity is going to be delayed. And sure enough, boom, Hello Games had to say, "Hey, sorry, we have to delay our game. We hope you understand our motivations as to why, but just sorry." And of course, anyone who went completely batshit on Jason Schreier, they didn't apologize. They didn't confess up for their crimes.
Of course not. No, that never happens. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it just doesn't. You gain nothing from doing this. I would almost say, God, if you're only following a developer for news on a game, you're doing it wrong. You really are. Because these developers, are not going to give a shit when a game is announced for release. The only time they're going to give a shit is when the game is done and it's going to release. That's when they care. That's when they know about it. So if you're saying, "I'm going to follow this developer because I'll get the latest news on when this game is coming," no, that's not going to work. You would have to go to the company's PR channel for that. That's what it's specifically for. So on that, I would say, that's follow a different channel on that one. Don't follow a developer just for that. While we're mentioning that, people should stop being dicks and that developers don't like this, we got to be honest about something. The businesses love this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because they just see it as, "Oh, my God, look at that sweet engagement on social media. Oh, my God." Yeah.
So, yes, the developers themselves who are making the game fucking hate this shit and can't stand it. And they should, because it's bullshit, and they shouldn't have to deal with it. Which is why I was really surprised that Ron Gilbert had a blog where he talked to all these people. So that's where I was like, what are you doing? You have this has the potential to be really bad. So, not that I'm blaming Ron Gilbert, but to a certain extent, you have to be smart and realize that if you're going to make it this open, you're going to get some asshats in here who are going to treat you like shit. So maybe do the blog, but turn off the comments. Maybe that's the thing to do. So if you want to engage like that, engage, but set terms, set boundaries. And I think that might have been the one thing that Ron Gilbert did wrong on this, was basically say that, maybe I should just get rid of the comments and be fine with that. And if they want to bitch about it on social media, let them. You can fucking ignore that. So, whatever. Wasn't the controversy with Monkey Island was the art style, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the new art style was just apparently something that old schoolers apparently hated and just completely went ballistic over.
I mean, like I've seen what Monkey Island looked like. It looked like a cartoon, but the art style's not bad. The the art, I'm not big on it, but if they use it right in the game and it makes sense, give it a fucking shot. Who cares? I mean, if you want the game and you're interested in the story, the art style, unless it looks like absolute dog shit, which it doesn't, you should be fine. You know, I mean, if I'll put it this way, if you object to the art style that much, don't buy it. There, that's all you need to say to a developer when you say, I don't like your art style. Yeah, I'm not gonna buy it. Okay, fine, done. That's all you gotta do. You don't have to send death threats. You don't have to treat them like shit. You say, yes, sorry, I'm not interested. That's it. All you gotta do. And then he'll be like, okay, I understand. That's all you gotta do. I agree that you shouldn't treat developers like shit. But let's be honest. Okay, these businesses and these studios constantly use hype and constantly use these tactics to hype up their game to get maximum amount of sales on the first week and the first month of its sales. So as much as I would like to be 100%, you know, they did nothing wrong, don't treat them like shit, they feed into this. So not so much developers really, but the people who run the business and run the studios. They definitely do. Which is why deep down they're not going to do anything. They'll virtue signal and say, treat our developers with respect, and they'll do nothing after that. They'll just essentially, basically say, yeah, be good guys, and walk away. And that's it. So, as much as I agree, yeah, don't treat these people like assholes, that's wrong. But on the other hand, the people that run these studios love that engagement. So as much as the developers hate it, the business people love it. So it's not going away. And they're not going to punish those people that much when it comes to it. If they really cared, I mean, they could just say, you know, hey, you can't buy our game now. Like, not that they can actually do that. But they'll be like, yeah, you know what? Fuck you. we don't want you. Go away. We don't care. But they're not going to do that. You know why? Less sales. So,
yep.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, not offhand. Just, it's just one of those things that I just hate seeing people just behaving badly to just game developers and stuff like that. Though, to your point about the engagement and stuff like that, there is kind of a funny counterpoint.
Okay, go ahead.
So this week, EA decided to try to be cute and snarky and funny, and jump on the dating meta of like, okay, and for anyone who's not familiar with this dating meta thing that's been trending on social media, it's basically person you're interested is a 10, but they have that one hobby that completely is a boner killer. Right.
So like 0 is a 10, but he's a sick freak who likes Sonic games. Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So something like that, and EA decided to try to jump in, or whoever was running the EA social media account decided to post this on Twitter. When you meet that someone, but they like single player games. And boy, oh boy, they got clowned on hard.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, people took that really seriously and took it as a great offense, which I was like, come on. A fucking intern pretty much did that, and that's it. That's all that happened. Like, I think Dreamcast guy did a video. It was like, this is an affront to gamers. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. I'm like, come on. Like, on the one hand, it's like, obviously an intern was trying to get social engagement and just chose the wrong topic. That's what happened. On the other hand, they kind of deserve it because of what they've said in the past. So,
but yeah, it was just kind of funny because one of the big games that EA has under its belt that has been selling like crazy is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Mm-hmm. So it was a real big egg on their face. It was just like, guys, did you not tell your intern that one of the biggest single player games that EA has been making crazy amounts of money on was literally released in recent memory. I don't know. It's something under the Star Wars franchise, which is, I don't know, pretty big. And yeah, it also recently got a sequel announced for it. So kind of a big deal.
I really think it wasn't thought of that deeply. I think it was just basically...
No.
I think it was just basically what they meant was, she's a 10, but she won't play multiplayer games with me. I think that's all it really was. But yeah, how it was interpreted and how it was typed and how it was put on Twitter, yeah, it did kind of look like, guys? It's like, are you sure about this one? So, yeah. But the ones that are just being deeply offended and saying, you know, like, EA doesn't like you. And I'm like, well, no, EA doesn't care about you because they just care about the money, sure. But you're taking this several steps too far. So, okay. Thanks for mentioning that. I completely forgot about that for probably a good reason. But that was funny. that was a funny thing. When I saw that, I laughed. I'm like, oh, God. EA, what are you doing? All right. So, Zero, we are at the end of the podcast. Oh, my God. And we're not even 2 hours in. How about that? And with that, Zero, of course, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Okay, so, if you have a question for Zero and I, you can always email us at zerowizcast@gmail.com. Or, if you're on YouTube, you can comment on the YouTube comment section for a question that you may have for us. I just wanted to mention that in case. So, here's a question for you, Zero. Microsoft, I believe, announced today that they are no longer going to have Xbox 360 games available for free on their Xbox Live Games for Gold service. Now, let's take away the fact that Games of Gold pretty much is dog shit. Let's just take that away, okay? No one cares about it. It's full of games that no one cares about, so whatever. Let's just take that away. All right? My thought process came from this, then. Zero, what is your favorite Xbox 360 game?
That's a tough one because I have quite a bit of them, and some of them are actually part of my most valuable games on Xbox 360, but that's because I ordered this anthology kit that was a Japan-only exclusive for Amazon, and it was limit one per household.
Oh, God.
If you're talking about domestic titles, I think easily it's probably going to be Radiant Silvergun. For anyone not familiar, it's a shooter game from Treasure, the folks behind Sin and Punishment and Mischief Makers and the legendary Ikaruga. But this was a shooter that was on the Saturn, and you have a ship that has 5 attack modes, including one that's like a close-up sword mode, so you can slash up ship parts and appendages and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Really intense game, but for the longest time, it was a collectible rarity in the Saturn scene. And when I say collectible rarity, I mean it, because
like thousands of dollars,
right? Yeah. So like a sealed copy, easily like $1,000 or $2,000. Used copies were ranging anywhere from, I want to say, $400 to $600 just for a used copy.
Oh, God.
It was absolutely bonkers. So, yeah, it was one of those things that I just kind of resigned to myself with being a shooter fan. I was just like, yeah, I'd love to play these games, but I don't think I will ever be able to find them. And I sort of just resigned to my fate. I was just like, okay, well, sucks to be me, but, just here we are.
Yeah.
And then, of course, suddenly Treasure, in cooperation with Xbox Live Arcade, had just made an announcement saying, hey, so we've got a surprise. We're going to re-release this on Xbox 360 in HD resolution, so it'll be in beautiful 1080p. And of course, just people like me sort of lost our minds, because it was just like, this is so freaking cool. Just a game that I thought no one would ever just reprint another copy of. All of a sudden, they've done it. They've made it easily accessible, easily purchasable. Just, this is so awesome. And just that was just what it was, and it was amazing to see for me. And I was overjoyed because I didn't have to, one, buy a Saturn console, because at the time that I found out about Radiant Silvergun, Saturn consoles were starting to become collectibles. And then also, you had cases of Saturn disk drives going out, so there really wasn't a optical disk drive emulator. So yeah, just totally made my day when that one came out to the world on Xbox Live.
I mean, God, like the Xbox 360 era, they really took a lot of, especially in XBLA, they took a lot of classic games and just put it right on there. And some rare ones, too. Wasn't Ikaruga on there as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ikaruga, again, was kind of the similar fate to Radiant Silvergun. Low print Dreamcast game. Just
I thought it was a GameCube game.
It was also a GameCube game, because when it was localized to the West, it came out on GameCube. But originally, it was just a Japanese Dreamcast game. So, yeah, just the Japanese import Dreamcast disc and the US market GameCube disc, absolute collector's rarities.
Okay.
And of course, just, again, all of a sudden Treasure goes, hey, by the way, you know that legendary game Ikaruga? Well, it's coming to Xbox 360.
Yeah. So, wow. So then your favorites are just re-releases of old games. That's interesting. I mean,
yeah.
The XBLA was a big deal on the Xbox 360. I think a lot of people forget that. And they'll say something like Gears of War is probably one of their favorite Xbox 360 games. I'm like debating what my favorite is. I mean, mine's an XBLA game too, actually. I want to point out one disc game that I absolutely adored on the Xbox 360, but doesn't quite make it, and that's Viva Pinata. And,
that's another good one.
Oh, yeah. Viva Pinata came out around the same time Gears of War came out, and when I think it was like the same day. I might be wrong on that, but I remember this distinctly because I bought both games, and I was playing Gears of War. I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. So let me try Viva Pinata. I got fucking hooked on that game. Oh, my God. And I had friends who were playing Gears of War. I was like, dude, get on. Let's play some Gears of War. I was like, fuck you, dude. I'm playing Viva Pinata. This game's awesome. So, yeah, I got to give a shout out to Viva Pinata. That game is great. But that said, favorite game on the XBLA. I'm on Xbox 360. God, it's a toss-up. It's either Pac-Man Championship Edition or Super Meat Boy, and I'm leaning. I'm leaning Super Meat Boy. Actually, I mean Super Meat Boy. I think we've talked about this on the podcast. Like it's that perfect game where you know damn well it's hard, but the reason why you're losing is because of you. It's not because of the game, it's you. And you have to get better. And even when you're getting better, it's so fucking satisfying to play. So, you just just have these really unique and really fun challenges that, while frustrating, were a lot of fun and felt so good when you beat it. So I love Super Meat Boy. And then with Pac-Man Championship Edition, God, man, I never thought they would improve upon Pac-Man, but I can't play Pac-Man anymore because of how good Championship Edition is. So, yeah, I mean, I will edge it out and say it's that it's Super Meat Boy for me. But Pac-Man Championship Edition is a close second.
Yeah, as far as a truly dedicated 360 game, it's going to be tied um, in a three-way for me,
Ooh.
and these are due to the fact that um, they came in just one of my most valuable video game crown jewels of my entire collection.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone who is not into the bullet hell shooter games, um, the company Cave of Japan released a collector's anthology of pretty much almost all of their 360 games in a giant box. And this giant box retail was about $300. But on top of the games, you also got strategy guide books. You also got strategy guide DVDs. You also got art books. You also got soundtrack CDs, all encompassed in this giant, huge box. And go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was gonna. Can I take a guess at what it is?
It's basically called the Cave Shooting Collection.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Dodonpachi, but oh, that's cool.
Well, that's it's there are a series of those games in the box. I believe
okay.
Either two or three of the games in the box. So yeah, just the initial run of it was so popular that Cave was just like, okay, we'll do a reprint edition of it and everything, and the reprint was what I got in on, and this time it was an Amazon Japan exclusive, and they actually did a hard limit of the item could only be sold to Japanese addresses, and it was one copy per address, and I had ordered it off of an import site, which by some unholy miracle, they did not charge any markup on top of it. They were just like $300 straight, and because it's over this much, you get free shipping with it, and that in itself was kind of amazing at the time, especially when you had all the import stores pretty much just charging any sort of markup just to kind of recoup any sort of extra profit on top of just placing the order for you in Japan and everything. So in the collection, 3 games pretty much stand out for me as my favorite 360 games. Mushihime-sama 2, which was excellent. Just fantastic mechanics, fantastic shooting, just a whole bunch of fun with that one. Espeluna 2, Black Label, which, again, another classic cave shooter, just with really, really solid mechanics. And then the last one, this one did come out to the US as well, too, and it is Akai Katana, or Red Sword, for anyone who doesn't know what that means. And Akai Katana was interesting because it was a horizontal shooter, kind of like Death Smiles, but it was the story's kind of interesting because it's a remix on the events of World War II Japan, that everyone is trying to search for the legendary Red Sword because potentially it could change the fate of the world. And you've got 3 different pilots who want to find the Red Sword to accomplish their own personal wish, and they all have their different stories on what they wish for and everything. But that one had a interesting mechanic in one of their arrange modes that was made exclusively for the 360, and it makes it interesting because basically just in the arrange mode, you can pretty much gather up ethereal swords, and then after you gather a bunch of them up, you can use an alternate fire where you basically just deploy the swords out, and the swords just do chip damage through the enemy, and when they do chip damage, your combo score counter just goes absolutely ballistic. So it's just crazy numbers going bigger and bigger and bigger, and for anyone who's kind of a bullet hell addict like me, just when numbers go bigger, it's just an absolute treat.
So, okay, did you have an Xbox 360 that is from Japan, or?
Yes. So, because a bunch of the games in this cave shooting collection are actually region 2, they're not all region, except for like I think one or two discs in there. I actually had to buy a Japanese 360, and this was when Microsoft was starting to discontinue the making of the Xbox 360S, which was the real slim, angular one that kind of had like an hourglass sort of shape to it.
Uh-huh.
And this was when they were starting to make the Xbox 360E, which was the one that didn't have the optical output or anything like that. So I ended up having to pick up one of those from an import shop, and unfortunately, that one ran me another $300. So yeah, just that's pretty much the crown jewel of my entire video game collection right there. A Japanese Xbox 360 and this $300 box of Japanese bullet hell games.
Wow.
I think with regards to the announcement of the 360 games being discontinued, it's kind of interesting to see an end of an era, especially considering that they were still giving out 360 games through the entire lifespan of the Xbox One.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit odd to kind of see this this part of the program sort of discontinued, but I get it too. They really want to focus people more on just getting on Game Pass, so you can play some of the Xbox 360 stuff on Game Pass via backwards compatibility, and focus on giving out stuff that's on Xbox One and Xbox Series S and Series X. So
Yeah.
I get it, but I can see why some people might be a little bit upset.
I'm at this point now where, like, just get rid of Xbox Live Gold. I mean, really, if someone has Game Pass, that should be enough. You're getting so much money from that, so just God, we both know that Game Pass is going to raise in price soon. I know that for a fact. So you might as well just get rid of Xbox Live Gold and just make Game Pass $20 a month and be done with it, and give everybody just give online for free for everybody, because it's kind of pointless, because even with Xbox Live Games for Gold, you need Xbox Live Gold to play them. So and if they're just giving you crap in order to placate you, at this point, it's like, get this over with. I don't play the games you're giving me. So at this point, just make Game Pass, and that's it. So I think Xbox Live Gold can go away, is my opinion, really. So, well, on that note, that is the end of the Capital Games podcast. Tune in next week as we discuss the going-ons and happenings of the gaming industry. I'm The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we'll talk to you next week.